So this is the explanation to what had happened. Um, these are two different days. This is when Frankie was sitting on the couch, and Frankie came through the door, and I immediately could look on his expression. I don't know if he had a gift. I want to say I think he had something in his hand. He might have. I don't remember. Like someone gave him something, and my dad and him were walking in, casual, but Frankie looked sort of very groomed. I don't know how to express what groomed looks like to someone, but it was out of the unusual for him to be behaving this way, especially since he went to a bar. And he sort of turned to his left and kind of put his head down, and I was like, well, what's wrong? And I approached him, and when I was standing over here, and I approached him and I said, hey, what's going on? And he was just behaving like somebody had told him something and brainwashed him, like groomed him, like made him feel like he was important or something. And I thought it was weird. I was like, you went to the bar and played video games. Who could have gone there? And I knew this at this age. So if Frankie's okay, he'd be able to tell you that day. This is also the same area. This is on our house. All this is on our house. And this same area is also, I think I was here, and it also was, my mother could tell you this. Julian may have been old enough to see this. I'm 6 years, he's 10 years. Yeah, Julian was somewhere 5 to 6 years old. So Julian might have remembered this. He might. I don't know if I don't think he will, but he might. Frankie was standing here, came from a karate class one day, and he showed us how to break a board. And I don't know who held it in place, and he broke it there, or he came through the door and he kept it as souvenirs, because they had him break boards at his karate class. Like I don't know, it was belt earning class or whatever. It was one of the classes that I didn't go to that day. So, and also, in this particular situation, this is my room. This is where I was standing, over where the phone was, right here, and I was right in this area on the phone next to my room. And my mom was in the kitchen, and I was talking to Frankie for about, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes, and he was telling me, oh, I'm in the Navy, and I want to say he was in boot camp or he was in Japan. It was on two separate occasions, but this particular time, whenever I called him, he said he was in the Navy, and I could look at my mom, and I was on the phone. He was like, oh, hey, Frankie. And I was just like talking. I was looking at my mom. At this time, there's not really much of a reason to really hate my mother very much. There was, just understanding of what our home was like, but there really wasn't a situation. And I was kind of looking at it like how my mother would react or be proud. And she wasn't particularly proud. And she sort of kept her head down and was washing dishes. And she was just like doing this, like, mijo está corriendo porque te pasó cosas en vida. Like things that had happened in his life caused him to go run somewhere. And when she was kind of nodding her head like that, I saw her turn around like she was going to get a dish off the stove. And as I was walking, I got done talking to Frankie, where I was right about to hang up on the Frankie, and I was looking at my mother, and I looked at her face, and I could tell that it wasn't a good thing. I knew that it wasn't. It was not a good thing. It wasn't a good sign, because my mother showed no emotion. Like she was keeping quiet about it. Not like she was forced. Like she didn't want to tell me, or she maybe was like trying to protect Frankie is why she didn't want to tell me. And that's what I think. Now, it's real sketchy to me, because I know Ken Cooper and Sarah Cooper take ownership of that relationship and all the inner circles of that. So I know Ken Cooper's the leader, and Sarah Cooper's the leader of my mother, and Ken Cooper played daddy over my mother. But at least in this time, when they were not in the picture, before the president handed down the trophies to them, my mother didn't show any happiness, and she was just like, I thought, and I was trying to read her, because when I was walking this way and I looked at her, I stopped for a second, and I was standing right here, and my mother was right here, and I said, and I said, hey mom, you should be proud. He goes, hey, I just talked to Frankie, he's in the Navy. I was like, oh yeah, because this tradition that my dad sort of taught me about serving the country and being, was like being in the military. Oh, you went to the Navy? Like it was like a huge event. It was a huge thing. Like it was like a tradition. It always seemed that my dad seemed to kind of pass on. But like the sort of, it wasn't like, oh, I just joined the service, I had nothing to do. No, it was like something that you chose to do because you wanted to serve the American flag or wanted to serve the country and give your piece to your country. So, or be proud of that. And I remember I looked at my mother and said, hey, he goes, how come you're not happy? Frank is in the Navy. And she didn't say anything. And we had an argument. There was no arguments prior that I could remember, but she did not look very happy. Not very, I wouldn't say she looked disappointed, not happy. She looked disappointed, like I could tell like he was lying or something. Like by looking at my mother, like she knew that he was lying and she was not happy, But I don't know. Like I said, Ken Cooper was making Frankie cry out in the balcony. Barack Obama wants to make Sarah Cooper and Kenneth, for what it is. I'm tired of talking about it. The day has finally come for me to, it's a done deal. They got what they wanted, and the president's a psychologist allowed it. You're not going to be able to shoot and stop and pound on these motherfucker, Kenneth for what he did, and Ken and Sarah. It's not going to happen. What they did to such an innocent person was murder. It was throwing an innocent person in prison. I can't ever express enough what that was. I feel so guilty on myself to ever have had them in the hospital because I knew that it was going to put a lot of wounds, but I thought it might be able to heal the family to bring them together, and it didn't. They were just scavenging like pigs, and that's all they... Regardless, you're always going to have people like that. It's the president. He just wanted to let that go. They're going to keep layering it into outsmarting. My mother has a first-year education. They get anything they want. So, anyway, I thought I'd make this video because I don't know if it turns out that Frankie lied and didn't go to the service. It would be unbelievably crazy and fucked up because Frankie had nowhere to go. Frankie had absolutely not one friend, no one. I'm talking about there was not one person that was Frankie other than Mickey. Mickey only called our house like a total of like 4 or 5 times ever since we lived there. He always knocked on our door. If we weren't home, then that was it. But he didn't call our house. He'd walk dribbling his basketball to the house. So Frankie, if someone gave Frankie sneaked him a piece of paper and try to get him to leave, it would be a total shock. It would totally be someone bribed him. I don't know what the fuck could have gone if somebody... There was not an ounce of any idea. You don't understand. There was no one involved in Frankie's life. No one. I mean, when he was going to Mary Grimes, he didn't have friends that came over. He didn't have friends that called. He never went on one movies or to a mall at all with any friends. All through elementary, DeWitt Perry, nobody, nothing. You don't understand. There was no Melissa even. So I think it's important for me to say something because it is too late. So I said something about it, and hopefully Jesus Christ fixes everything in our family's life. And Frankie even said when I was working at Child Protective Service, he goes, yeah, Jesus. So there you go. Y'all fix the story. Y'all know better.